Om Ajnanat Vandasya Jnanasala Shalakya Sakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namo Vishnu Padaya Snavastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesa Sinyavadi Paskachaya Desatarani. Hare Krishna. Good evening. This evening we will continue discussing the third verse of Nectar of Instruction. Utsaya nisyadaya tatat karma pavartanat. Sangatyara satovite sadbir bhakti prashidati. This verse mentions 6 principles favorable for devotional service. And since many weeks we are discussing this tat karma pavartanam. Tat karma pavartanat. That performing activities favorable for devotional service. And these are nine activities which Prahlad Maharaj mentioned to his father. That Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So last week we discussed Vandanam prayers, and this evening we will discuss Dasyam. That's so we have the purport on the screen. Dasyam, there is the following statement in regard to assisting the Lord as a servant. So, after many thousands of births, when one comes to understand that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, one can deliver others from this universe. If one simply continues to think that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, even without performing any other process of devotional service, he can attain full success. Or simply by this feeling, one can perform all 9 processes of devotional service. So this here, Srila Prabhupada in a purport is stressing the importance of Sambandha Jnana, knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. And essence of our relationship with Krishna, that is that we are a servant. That and this is a basic principle in devotional service. That even the devotee sees himself as a servant of the Lord, but foremost is seeing himself as a servant of the spiritual master. And the spiritual master is a representative of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada many times said, that is coming to the West was just the following of the order of his spiritual master. So he saw himself as a servant of his spiritual master. And the spiritual master represents Krishna. The service is transferred to the Guru Parampara to Krishna. And that also Srila Prabhupada sometimes, if outside people would request him something, sometimes he said, yes, I'm not your servant, I'm Krishna's, I'm the servant of Krishna. That means Prabhupada was always in that consciousness. I'm a servant of Krishna. Also in purports, Srila Prabhupada explains that if we do our work, our job, then we should think that Krishna has appointed me to do this job. That therefore I must do it first class. So that is important is the consciousness in which we are doing it, the consciousness of an eternal servant of Krishna. And that is what we are. We are because Mama from Church Jiva Buddha Sanatana, we are eternally, uh, eternally separate parcels of Krishna. But these separate parcels must be connected with the whole through devotional service. So if one always thinks like that, one feels a connection with Krishna. That and then Prabhupada said one can attain full success simply by this feeling. One can perform all 9 processes of devotional service. That so this is also important in the matter of chanting the holy name. Haridas Thakur says if we chant with the knowledge of Sambandha Gyan, the knowledge of our relationship with Krishna, we will enter Namabhas, or the stage of purification of the heart. That so because of course material desires are opposed to that. Material desires that is self-centered. That and not really self-centered, is false centered because it's related to the body, which we are not. It's giving pleasure to the body. That's material desires. That and this is a very temporary thing, and it's going against the spirit of devotional service. Therefore, we need to connect with Krishna. That then make that connection every moment by thinking I'm a servant of Krishna. Krishna has appointed me in that service, and therefore I must do it first class. Guru Maharaj would always say that everything must be first class because it's for Krishna, and that is that same consciousness. I'm serving Krishna. This is not ordinary service. It's for Krishna. That so that is the feeling here Srila Prabhupada is speaking about, and it is very important for us to always be in that mood, not a servant of our senses and our body, of our mind, because many times people becomes the servant of their feelings, their emotions, which is service to the mind, and that service to Maya, the illusory energy. So we have to be very careful with that. So many feelings comes up into the mind, but it's contrary. It's born of our material desires. It's born of our craving to give satisfaction to the mind and the senses of this body. But devotional service must be born in the heart from the conception, from the mood that I'm a servant of Krishna, that an eternal servant of Krishna. Therefore, many times we see also in prayers, at the end, the devotee writes, "Your eternal servant." And also we see in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, that when Murari Gupta, he was a Ram Bhakta, and Lord Chaitanya said, "Yes, you are Hanuman, my eternal servant." that and also in Sikshastikam in the fourth verse, Lord Chaitanya prays, "Let me be your servant, birth after birth after birth." That indicates this aspects of being an eternal servant, because that's our nature. If we do something else on serving Krishna, it will give satisfaction to the body and the mind, but not to the soul. That's what the soul craving for, this connection with Krishna. And it's a connection of love. And that connection we find in the residence of Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan, they were always ready to serve Krishna. And it's service in intense love that thinking oneself a friend of Krishna means also thinking oneself a servant of Krishna. That's included. And if one is in a parental mood, assisting Mother Yasoda, then this parental mood means the parent serves the child, serves Krishna. That's first, foremost, the parent is a servant of the child. Is also a friend of the child, and as parental affection. And the most intense love of service is the gopis. And that's also the most misunderstood from the material perspective. You cannot understand that from the material perspective, because people think it's calm, it's lust. But it's lust, it's transcendental lust. It's meant to please the senses of Krishna. But the gopis of Vrindavan, they felt themselves servants of Krishna. They wanted Krishna's friendship. They wanted to feed Krishna, parental love included. Of course, they wanted to please Krishna in whatever way. And this residents of Vrindavan, they are his eternal servants, which Krishna brought from Kaloka Vrindavan to this world to show what an eternal servant of Krishna means. And also Lord Chaitanya came in that mood of a devotee of Krishna. He said, Shivaya Svarupa Hori Krishna Nityadas. The original, the jiva, the spirit soul in this world, that his constitutional position is one of service to Krishna, is a servant of Krishna. Krishna Nitya Das. Nitya means eternal. So this is stressed so much by Lord Chaitanya. So it's a question that we do this always in this mood. Rupa Goswami says that the chanting of the holy name is a service rendered with the tongue. So again, this service aspect is there. We chant the holy name for the pleasure of Krishna. It's a service. So this is Dasyam. Of course, you had also in Krishna's pastimes Krishna's personal servants, and that is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. We can try to find this in Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion. The books here. Here you have all these modes. That spontaneous devotional service, sensual attraction, parenthood of friendship. These are all forms, yeah, that relationship Yeah, here. It is in the attitude of the denizens of Vrindavan, such as Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, is to be found the ideal transcendental concept of being the father and mother of Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. Factually, no one can become the father or mother of Krishna, but the devotee's possession of such transcendental feeling is called love of Krishna in a parental relationship. The Vaishnavas also felt like that. So spontaneous love for Krishna in parental relationship is found among the denizens of Dwarka, who belong to the dynasty of Vrishni, among the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Spontaneous love of Krishna is exhibited by the Vaishnavas and the denizens of Vrindavan, is eternally existing in them. In the stage of devotional service, where regulative principles are followed, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop of itself at a more advanced stage. So this means that one must first oneself see as a servant of Krishna, and more specifically in the Vaidisana Bhakti, the following of sadhana regulations, following the instructions of the spiritual master. We see ourselves as a servant of the spiritual master, and that the servant of the representative of Krishna. And then if we follow these regulative principles, then surely we will become purified. The effect is not directly love of Krishna. One becomes purified, because that love of Krishna is already in the heart. It is innate. It is normal for everyone, but it's covered now by this lust. And as these material desires, these anarthas are removed, this love becomes manifest again. It comes from the unmanifest to the manifest, because the covering is removed. So it is the most natural thing, this development. That, but how to develop this further? Yeah, this spontaneous love. Once the heart is purified, then one can speed it up by Raganuga. But one should not go to that platform unless one is purified. One is still contaminated by gross material sex desires. One should not even attempt to do that, because it will have an adverse effect. That therefore it is the persons designed to following the footsteps of such eternal devotees of the Lord as the Vrishnis and Vrindavan denizens are called Raganuga devotees, which means that they are trying to attain to the perfection of those devotees. These Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, but by spontaneous nature they become attracted to some of the eternal devotees, such as Nanda or Yasoda, and try to follow in their footsteps spontaneously. This is called this is a gradual development of the ambition to become like a particular devotee. This activity is called Raganuga. So that ambition to become a particular devotee will become naturally manifest, because that's your relationship with Krishna. And you become attracted to it, and you want to follow in these footsteps. So it's a spontaneous development. We cannot force that. That it's not something you try to achieve, because it's already there. Spiritual means eternal. We have our eternal relationship with Krishna, but we have forgotten it. Amnesia, spiritual amnesia. We have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. That therefore Prabhupada writes, We must always remember, however, that such eagerness to follow in the footsteps of the denizens of Vraj is not possible unless one is freed from material contamination. So in following the regulative principles of devotional service, there is a stage called anartha-nivriti, which means the disappearance of material contamination. And that's exactly the point. This stage of anartha-nivriti we will enter when we think ourselves a servant of Krishna. That if we don't think ourselves, we are not in that mood of a servant of Krishna, but are thinking of sense enjoyment, then the purification, the anartha-nivriti, the removal of these anarthas, these unwanted things in the heart, this lust will not happen. So sometimes it is found imitating such devotional love, but factually is not freed from anarthas or unwanted habits. It has been seen that the so-called devotee proclaims himself a follower of Nanda, Yasoda, or the gopis, while at the same time this abominable attraction for mundane sex life is visible. So that's not possible. That if you have lust in the heart, there cannot be love for Krishna. It's the more we are materially contaminated, the lower our spiritual advancement is. That it has been seen that the so-called devotee proclaims himself a follower of Nanda, Yasoda, or the gopis, while at the same time his abominable attraction for mundane sex life is visible. Such a manifestation of divine love is merely imitation and has no value, and one is actually spontaneously attracted to the loving principles of the gopis. There will be found no trace of any mundane contamination in his character. In our contaminated stage, we cannot understand what this love of the gopis means. It's theoretical. So therefore, in the beginning, everyone should strictly follow the regulative principles of devotional service according to the instructions of the scriptures and the spiritual master. So that's the point. When one becomes a servant of the instructions of the spiritual master. So only after the stage of liberation from material contamination can one actually aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan. So usually that takes 30, 40 years to come to that stage, to purify the heart, because this contamination is very deep. We have been cultivating this material desires for so many innumerable lifetimes that so Rupa Goswami says that when one is actually liberated from material contamination, he can always remember an eternal devotee in Vrindavan in order to love Krishna in the same capacity. And developing such an aptitude one will always live in Vrindavan within his mind. So that was Prabhupada. Prabhupada came to the West, but he never accepted their values, their lifestyle. Internally, he was always remained rooted in Vrindavan. So the purpose is that if it is possible, one should go and physically be present of Vraja Bhumi Vrindavan and be engaged in the service of the Lord, following the devotees in Vrajdam, the spiritual realm of Vraj. It is not possible, however, to be physically present if it's not possible to be physically present at Vrindavan. One can meditate anywhere upon living in that situation. Wherever he may be, one must always think about the Vrajadam and about following in the footsteps of a particular devotee in the service of the Lord. I remember in 98, 99 and 2000, 3 times, I did nearly the complete Vraj Mandal Parikram. It's meaning we go to the 12 forest of Vrindavan during 30 days. We are wandering, and you have a very close relation. You come really in contact with these Vrajavasis, and you hear the pastimes that Krishna had in each of these forests, and it leaves a deep impression. And later, when you come back to your home, you can meditate on because you remember all this all these pastimes and where they had taken place. When you read Krishna book, you read these pastimes, you remember the place because you have been there. That so therefore it's good sometimes to do this Vraj Mandal Parikram. It helps you later to remember Vrindavan. That a devotee who is actually advanced in Krishna consciousness, who is constantly engaged in devotional service, should not manifest himself, even though he has attained perfection. The idea is that he should always continue to act as a neophyte devotee as long as his material body is there. So someone who has that realization, he keeps it secret. Krishna does not want us to reveal our relationship with Krishna to others. That's confidential. When Vishaka Mataji asked Srila Prabhupada what his position is in the spiritual world, that and Prabhupada replied, "This is not your business. That you don't require." That so that one who has realized this, at the same time is very humble. He will present him always as a neophyte devotee. So activities in devotional service under regulative principles must be followed even by the pure devotees. But when he realizes his actual position in relationship with the Lord, he can, along with the discharge of regulative service, think within himself of serving the Lord under the guidance of a particular associate of the Lord, and develop his transcendental sentiments in following that associates. And then Prabhupada describes the process of Siddha Pranali. This Siddha Pranali is not advised by Srila Prabhupada. We should not follow that. But I explain you the principle of Siddha Pranali. There the devotee must be a Mahabhagavat, a self-realized devotee. And because he's on the spiritual platform and he can see past, present and future, he can understand he can understand the svarup of his disciple, and he reveals that so that to the disciple, so that the devotee can meditate on it. But here is Prabhupada's comment on that. We find that also described in Jaiva Dharma, a book written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Prabhupada writes here, in this connection we should be careful about the so-called Siddha Pranali. The Siddha Pranali process is followed by a class of men who are not very authorized and who have manufactured their own way of devotional service. So, authorized, it means they were not Mahabhagavat, they were not self-realized. So they imagine that they have become associates of the Lord simply by thinking of themselves like that. This external behavior is not at all according to the regulative principles. The so-called Siddha Pranali process is followed by the Prakrita Sadhya, a pseudo-sect of so-called Vaishnavas. In the opinion of Rupa Goswami, such activities are simply disturbances to the standard way of devotional service. So that we should stay away from that, this is not recommended. Rupa Goswami says it's just a disturbance of the standard way of devotional service. But then further, Srila Rupa Goswami says that learned acharyas recommend that we follow the regulative principles even after the development of spontaneous love for Krishna. So that's there is nothing now when, like the gopis, they don't chant rounds or what. They don't have to chant their rounds of following all these 64 items of devotional service of the 64 items for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. They do not follow them all, because sadhana bhakti is meant to develop love for Krishna. Once one's relationship with Krishna is revived, it becomes spontaneous. That it's a spontaneous love. So there is no reason to follow these regulative principles. But according to the regulative principles, there are 9 departmental activities. These we are discussing now. We are discussing that Dasyam, that one should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. So we have these 9 devotional services. 9. And one should think oneself a servant of Krishna. But one can engage in any of them. Hearing about Krishna. Hearing is a service for Krishna. Glorifying Krishna is a service to Krishna. Remembering Krishna is a service to Krishna. That Pada Sevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna. That as a service. That Archanam, Vanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Nivedanam. Any of these 9 processes is meant to be performed in a mode of servitorship. But we should choose that specific. We should use, or we should perform one of these, if these 9 processes of devotional service, or various, or more than one of these 9. One should perform this. But especially the particular item to which we feel naturally attracted to. Some devotees are more practical, others are more attracted to the scriptures. So if one becomes attracted to deity worship, then Pada Sevanam, Archanam, this is the way to do it. That if one feels more, to be in a passive way, just hearing, that's also possible. That much, but we say a passive way, but factually hearing must be active with great attention. And we see Maharaj Pariksit attained perfection just by hearing. And then we have Sukadev Goswami, he attained perfection by speaking. So, yes, even one of these items, but one should perform the item, Prabhupada says, that for which one has a natural aptitude. And it gives, for example, one person have a particular interest in hearing, another may have a particular interest in chanting, and another may have a particular interest in serving in the temple. So these or any of the other 6 different types of devotional service: remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything to one's position, and that should be executed in full earnestness. In this way, everyone should act according to a particular taste. Of course, then we have a description of conjugal love that is many details. Parentship and friendship is described. I think there was also a description of Dasyaras with two particular eternal associates of Vrindavan who were in Dasyaras, who were always with Krishna. That there was Putraka. But anyway, it's all in nectar of devotion, because we are discussing nectar of instruction. So nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction is a summary of nectar of devotion, the signs of how to perform devotional service. So now we can go back to the Bhagavatam, to the verse we're discussing, and go to the next item. So we have here this long verse, and we are nearing the end of the purport. So we were at Dasyam. So we discussed Dasyam. Any question in this regard, please? Yes, Krishna Archam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much for insightful realizations that you have shared. My question is regarding service to the spiritual master. We see in ISKCON that devotees serve the spiritual master in different ways. Some devotees are very close in terms of services. They are almost every day they are in touch with the spiritual master, and they are directly engaged. When there's a constant communication with the guru, like that, so there is a regular discussion or regular engagement, many instructions from the spiritual master. On the other hand, there are some other devotees who are physically not so close. I mean, they are at a different country or maybe in a different project where they get to meet or even directly communicate with the spiritual master very rarely, not so often. And they are practically on their own, except for some rare instructions or like that. So, and also we see that some devotees have multiple sources of inspiration. Like they're in ISKCON, there are many gurus, and they may be inspired more or less equally from several gurus. And there are other devotees who are very closely attached to one particular guru. Yeah, so in this way we see different types of devotees. So my question is, how do we know which is the best approach, and how one can make spiritual advancement best? Is it better to be close physically to the spiritual master, or it's better to meet once in a while or to be inspired by multiple gurus, or to be more attached to one particular guru, like that?
That think your question is important. The Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that one should take the order of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. So that's our duty, to execute the order of the spiritual master. That this physical presence is not so important, because physical presence allows us to hear from the spiritual master, which is also an important service. But we saw that many times Srila Prabhupada, he accepted personal servants, but he chose many times personal servants because they were struggling in the process of devotional service, and he wanted to train them. Sutta Kirti Prabhu told us that once Srila Prabhupada, he was ringing his bell, and Sutta Kirti came, and Srila Prabhupada was reading Krishna book, and he said to Sutta Kirti, he said, "This book is so nice. Just by reading this one book, one can become Krishna conscious." And then a few months later, Prabhupada was ringing again his bell. And he was taking nectar of devotion. And he said to Sutta Kirti was sitting before him, and he said, "This book is so nice. Just by reading this one book, one can become Krishna conscious." And he did it also a third time with another book. So what was the purport here? Why did Srila Prabhupada do that? Because Sutta Kirti Prabhu was not reading. He wanted him to read. So Prabhupada wanted to train him personally because he was struggling. But otherwise, this personal service to the spiritual master, we do as when the spiritual master requested that. But otherwise, we have to be careful that we are not becoming a botheration of the spiritual master. No, we should serve him. About accepting different instructions from different Shiksha gurus. That is, of course, a difficult point, because in the Vedic tradition, there is no case of an multi-guru society. There was only one guru, but we have a multi-guru society, which makes it complex. That a guru in a multi-guru society cannot weigh in exactly the same way as a guru who is outside the society. There are rules of cooperation required and so on, and Prabhupada knew this, that would be the case. Because in the Vedic tradition, the guru was a final word, and if you want to accept instructions from another guru, then and accept another guru, also Siksha guru, you have to ask the guru for permission. But in ISKCON this is unthinkable. You give a class and half of the devotee goes out because they didn't ask permission from his guru to hear from that guru. That would be very offensive also. That, so in a guru in a multi-guru society works differently. And therefore, our Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, gave us the instruction. You take you take instructions from everyone who is more advanced than you. There is a condition. You must learn who is more advanced and less advanced. And that we will discuss in Nectar of Instruction text 5. And if you have understood who is more advanced, you take instructions from that Guru. And you learn from it. But you can have in our movement a guru, take instructions from a guru, a Siksha guru, for a particular field of devotional service. So I learned many things from different Siksha gurus. That for a few years I was in the ashram in the same room with Yadunanda Swami. And from him I learned the importance of cultivating friendship in devotional service. That I traveled as a personal assistant with Prahladananda Swami. From him I learned how to preach according to Siddhanta. In Radhadesh I learned the art of deity worship from Prema Siddhananda Prabhu. So I learned from him how to perform devotional service is my goal in that field. From Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu, I cooperated with him, I assisted him for many years. From him, I learned the importance of tolerance in devotional service. I went to Vrindavan during 10 years, 3 months every year. I was hearing the Bhagavatam from Bhurijan Prabhu. I learned the Bhagavatam from Bhurijan Prabhu. So they are all, and the list goes on like that. They were more advanced than me in a certain field. And I took advantage from that. So it is, one must be thoughtful in that and take advantage of the association of devotees. Therefore, Guru Maharaj said, you take advantage of everyone who is more advanced than you. Does that help, Krishna Champa?
Yes, Maharaj, it was very enlightening. Yeah, that is the case with many devotees. So that was very insightful. My only question is, there are also some devotees who are very close to one guru, and although they may have some bit of association with others, but it's mostly, vastly with one particular guru. They're very physically close to that guru, and they're like, kind of, as you can say, a right hand man of that particular guru, and so most of their association and instructions comes from one particular guru. That's for some devotees. So is it to be seen that those devotees are more advanced than others who have multiple sources of inspiration and instruction? That was my main question.
Yeah, the thing there is that our first goal is Srila Prabhupada. And the spiritual master in ISKCON is only explaining the teachings of Prabhupada. We don't learn anything new from the Guru. It's already there in the teachings of Prabhupada. And if they have heard sufficiently from Prabhupada and they may take advantage of a certain goal that they feel attracted to. That is all right, but it depends on their inner attitude. If they think, yeah, this goal is, in my opinion, the only pure devotee, and I hear only from him, that's a great mistake. That's offensive. If that's not the case, but they feel inspired by this guru hearing, and therefore hearing mostly from him, and respect also the others, then that's all right. But we cannot see in the heart of a devotee and judge these things. So that's something to be careful with. But we can see in a practical way that if that mentality leads to groupism, that's dangerous. If it doesn't lead to that then it will be all right if their inner attitude is appropriate. So that would be my comment, Krishnarcha.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. That was very personal. Also, you have explained your own in your own life how you got inspiration from so many devotees. So that was very also something which is, to me, it's like some instructive.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much for sharing that, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Purnachandra.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj, for nice instructions. Maharaj, about the doing things first class way, how much effort or energy we should put for doing things first class in non-devotional work, meaning, at work, for example. Sometimes to do first class work, we may have to put a lot of energy and time. So, what should be the practical approach to it?
First, if we do our job, that we should think ourselves, I'm a servant of Krishna. Krishna has appointed me to do this work, and I do it for him. That's the inner attitude. So your service, you must make devotional. Make it devotional. And then there is the question of, because it's for Krishna, it must be first class. Of course, you have to be careful when you do your job. There's also, you must be efficient, what's expected from you. That it's not, I have to do it first class, and by that time I'm spending three times more time than normal. No, no. First class in that sense means, yeah, I have to meet the expectations of my superiors, and I have to meet that, and therefore I should be exemplary in my execution. That, but in that sense, try to make it first class. Of course, we know you have that in different fields. We see the temple in Ujjain is first class because Guru Maharaj wanted to have everything, all the materials, everything first class. And he put so much effort in it, in choosing the marble, and so many aspects that all the design, all the paintings was deeply thought about, trying to give it first class, make it first class. But because we should never think ourselves renderings first class, but we are attempting to present it first class. So in that way, but I know it's not easy to think in that way and to do it in a devotional way, but at least we should think it is my service for Krishna, not for my boss. But I must also meet the expectations of the boss. That's the minimum. And if you can do a little more, make it more first class, do a little more than is expected, that Krishna will appreciate that, and the boss probably also. So that balance must be there. Does that help, Purnachandra?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. Yeah. Also, if you have time, I have one more question,
Yeah.
Maharaj. So, Maharaj, about Srila Prabhupada, when we were reading the purport, there was a mention of visiting Vrindavan and spend time in Vrindavan if we can do physical, spending time. So, what would be your suggestion if we visit to Vrindavan? Because over the years we visited, personally, me visited few times. So sometimes we just repeat what we were doing before, just go to different temples and do in different darshans. But what should be our actual mood in this case?
Yeah, going to Vrindavan should be the mood of rendering service. And our foremost service to going to Vrindavan is hearing from the devotees. Hearing from the devotees, attending the classes, morning classes, Bhagavad Gita classes. Just be there, chant your rounds, and attend these classes. The hearing is the most important, because with the hearing you develop your vision, your attraction, and so on. That is the foremost service. Also, sometimes, like I mentioned, parikram is nice. But you are going to render service. And that should be in the forefront of our mind. That going to Vrindavan is not to feel good or to get some spiritual recreation. No, it's to render service, and that's most important. Because you may go on parikram and so on, but parikram is also hearing, means hearing the pastimes. Without the hearing, what will you see? You will not experience the Vrindavan. Vrindavan, we can see when by the hearing that unless we are pure, we cannot see Vrindavan. But through the hearing we can do. So I would say that is the foremost service, hearing. And if there is other service to do in the temple, you can also do. But I would say that's most important. Does that help or not, Chandra?
Yes, Maharaj. So just to understand, like rendering service, Maharaj, many times we go as a visitor. So do you mean just, try to get some service in temple, even if it is, cleaning the floor or helping somebody? So that kind of a service we should try to do. Yeah. Is that correct understanding, Maharaj?
Yeah, it's not compulsory, but attending just the morning and evening programs, hearing, is most important. And secondary, if you have more time, you can do some service also. You can go to the temple president, you have me some service, and you help. Yes, that's a good combination. That's nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then I thank you. We will discuss next time Sakyam. That I'm for next week, Wednesday, I'm traveling, but I will keep in contact with Purnachandra Prabhu to maybe another day, or maybe skip 1 week. We will discuss that. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
He's
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.